Welcome to Photowrk. Today on the show, we have celebrity wardrobe and fashion stylist Apuje Kalu.
And in this episode, he tells us how he got to where he is today, as well as tips for up-and-coming fashion stylists. And if you're a photographer, you need to hang around too, because he tells us how we can work with them more and how they up our game as fashion photographers.
We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to kick it off with our question we love to ask, which is, how did you get started on your journey to where you are today? Amazing fashion stylist.
Thank you.
Celebrity, red carpet, all that. So we're here to hear about you.
Okay. My name is Apuje Kalu. I'm a wardrobe and fashion stylist. I got my start doing styling real people for engagement shoots and for lifestyle shoots. So I started doing that working with one of my friends who's a photographer, and I started styling my friends who were getting married, and I recommended him as a photographer, and he asked me to come on board as like the creative director and stylist. I mean, at the time, I was coming from corporate. I have an engineering degree, so I did that for about 7 years. So
Very related.
Related. Totally different field, and I was figuring out what was next. I was thinking about doing fashion, but from a business perspective, I was going back to get my MBA to do like marketing and brand management of luxury goods. But life just had a different plan for me, you know? So I decided to just push forward with that and kind of like just go with the flow and not try to put my plan in place of what I feel like God had in store for me. So when I did the first engagement shoot, my friend came to Washington, D.C., where I was based at the time. And he asked me to help him scout out locations because the couple had an idea. They wanted it to be shot in like a botanical garden. They wanted flowers, which was very traditional when it comes to like engagement shoots. And we were like, okay, that sounds great. So we'll do that. But there was also a carnival in town. So we thought, well, what about if we shoot part of it, one look in the botanical garden, and then the other look at like the carnival, because we can like play on the rides, the games, and stuff like that, and really kind of show you guys' love story in a different light. So the couple was very open to that because we met what they wanted initially, and then they kind of gave us this other side by doing the carnival. And my friend Elton Anderson posted it on his blog at the time, and he got a really good response. And I was like, well, maybe it's something to this whole fashion styling thing, because something that I saw more as a hobby, not really as a career. And I was not really introduced to like the world of fashion or wardrobe styling at the time. So I really had to do my research and kind of figure out like what was next. So whenever Elson had a shoot, whether it's paid or not on the East Coast, I would just go because I still had savings, and I got a buyout from my company. So I would just like travel. If it was in Philadelphia, it was in New York, if it was in Atlanta or Miami, I would just go. And he would pitch me to the couples like, hey, I know how this stylist. I would go maybe to their wardrobes, to their closets, and I would go to the store and buy and return pieces, you know. And that's really how I got my start as a wardrobe stylist.
That's amazing. That's definitely non-traditional, right?
Yes, definitely non-traditional, but definitely some transferable skill sets though as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, were you born in Washington?
Yep, so I was born in Washington. My mom is originally from Philadelphia and was raised in D.C. since she was 10. And my father's Nigerian, and they met in college and had me.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard it's kind of difficult to transition from like the wedding world to fashion or commercial world. Did you ever experience anything like that? Was it a little tough getting in?
It was tough. I wouldn't say it was tough getting in. I think my career path or my trajectory was a little different because Elton and I were so closely tied. We kind of grew together. So in a sense, all we needed to find was someone or people who was great at hair and makeup. So once we got our handle on like the wedding aspect of it, of like the save the dates and the engagement shoots and just lifestyle shoots for people, we started to do test shoots with modeling agencies down in Miami, which is where Elton was based on South Beach. And we started off with a more boutique agency. And the Miami market's very commercial. So as a stylist, I think I may have felt constrained because I think initially I was overstyling the test shoots, because test shoots are typically not about you as a photographer or as the hair, makeup, or the wardrobe stylist. It's really about the talent and making sure that they're marketable to the brands the agency wants to market them to. So I felt like, oh, okay, I'm only putting them in the bathing suit. It needs to have a bangle or necklace on. Well, actually, no. It just, find the right bathing suit that works and grow and establish that relationship. So I think we worked with one agency, and I was like, okay, I kind of learned. It was really trial by fire because I at the time I hadn't assisted. I was just figuring it out as I went, and so was Elton. And they gave feedback, so we took that feedback, and then we started working with Next models down in Miami, and they gave us a couple of new faces. So at that point, I started to ask, who are you marketing this model to? Like, do you see them as like a Journeys, Abercrombie and Fitch, Aeropostale like kind of girl, or do you see like her going more in the fashion route? So that way, we tailored the test shoots to that. So that helped with the transition. Was the learning process, or was doing the test shoots and building a portfolio. And whenever we shot someone, like we would give like maybe 4 or 5 like distinct looks, and the models will always book work. Because at the time we were doing a lot of location and natural light shoots, which really spoke to that Miami market. And Elton understood that, I understood that, and then we had a guy who did both hair and makeup, and he understood that as well. So you had these 3 guys shooting these young kids coming to like Elton's like studio apartment on South Beach, 5 a.m. call times, like knocking it out. And we just kind of grew from there. So going from, to answer your question, to going from like the weddings to the fashion world, it was easier because the test shoots helped facilitate that process. And that was the learning curve that we needed in order to like really execute and do great work.
I love that you had the insight to like tailor it to the girl, like to the model that you're working with.
That's great advice.
Yes.
That, I mean, not everybody does that.
Yeah, I mean, and we really had to understand because they were paying us as well. And
nice.
Oftentimes our test shoots aren't paid. So initially they weren't, but then when they saw the quality that we were bringing to them, they was like, okay, they'll find a little bit of money like to pay. And it wasn't much, but it was something like, to kind of keep it going and help pay, because we had props. And again, I had to buy and return at the time. And this time I'm on my unemployment check. So it wasn't that much a week. It was enough to like cover on like the bills that I had. So I would take that little bit of money, or Elton would provide money as well, like to put towards it. But we knew it had to go back. Like I had to learn the whole retagging.
Yep.
Like that whole situation and managing. Like we didn't have a car. So we were on skateboards or the bus, or we would be walking, or we would call on friends, and there weren't that many stores, so people would start to know your face. It's like, okay, here he comes in here again, buying these clothes, and he's returning them, not keeping anything. We had to be very cognizant of that as well, because you don't want to get like flagged or anything. So it was really managing and utilizing our resources in that small space in order to make it work and to give a great product.
So we talked about like your story, but this is more about your advice to somebody else wanting to get started. Like, would you say to somebody just brand new wanting to get started with fashion styling?
Someone who's interested in becoming a fashion stylist, I would say intern and assist. That's one step that I did not do. I didn't have that available to me, like just based on the location. And I feel like that's one way for you to learn on someone else's time and or dime. And you're able to not only garner relationships, but you're also able to like learn the process. You're able to have someone who's been where you are teach you like the ropes. So like interning is a great place to start, because and we probably won't get paid. Most interns who are styling are not being paid. Maybe like a transportation stipend or like food, but other than that, like you're literally, you are giving your time in order to invest in your future. So I think that's a great place to start. And then once you become a great intern, you can move on to be an assistant, where you're an actual asset to a stylist. And oftentimes assistants go on to become great stylists because they get referrals from the stylist, or like I'll give jobs that I may not be able to do to my assistant because I know that they're capable of handling it. As an assistant, oftentimes you're the ones communicating with the different showrooms and stuff like that, or you're doing the returns. So people like, your face, there's a level of comfort and familiarity there for you. So there's a huge upside, I think, to us interning and assisting. I think another thing to do is to network laterally, is to find people who are trying to do the same things you're trying to do. So finding photographers and hair and makeup or nail techs as well to collaborate with and to do test shoots and to do spec shoots. And you guys can grow together as well. I think it's always important to always be creating and generating content. And it's really about the journey. It's not about perfection. You have to really start somewhere. So I think that was key for me as well, is not to be paralyzed by the perfection aspect of it. It's just to continue to work hard and to take each shoot and grow from it and learn from it. So I would say interning and assisting, and also networking laterally and working with people who are on your same level, who is trying to achieve the same goals you're trying to, in order to get to like the next level.
Speaking of that, intern and assisting, how would somebody get your attention to do so? Like, what if somebody wants to like be on your team?
Typically, most of my interns and assistants have come from referrals from either other stylists or friends or people that I know, but also people like send emails or DMs and reach out. They may like just say like what they've done. They submit their resume. I like people who are interested in what I'm doing and clients that I'm doing. Like if you send a canned email where I know you just like
Blast it.
blast it and put my name in there, and I'm not as apt to respond to that, because I understand there's a lot of people out there, but some will try to tailor your emails or your messages to that particular person. That's one way to get my attention, and just like working hard too. Also, I like to see people who work hard, because styling is also about being able to adapt well to change and to adapt quickly to change, especially when it comes to celebrity. Like, jobs pop up like daily and quickly, and you have to be able to produce. And oftentimes it's super last minute. Like, I've had clients that reached out to me for an event that's happening at 11 a.m. the next day at 4 p.m. the night before.
Oh.
And while that's not ideal, but you have to make it work. And it's like, how do you make it work so your client still looks great? The alterations are done on time. It's within budget, and they're dressed. And okay, you have a fitting at 1 a.m. in the morning. You rush to your tailor at 9 a.m. and they have an hour to get it done because you have to be dressed by 10:45. It's like those type of things that happen. So, but how do you think through that process? Like, that's important to me. So I need someone. When I look at people who, like, how do they think on their toes? Because the creative side is great. A lot of people, I think, have the propensity to be great stylists, but can you handle the administrative side and the things on the back end to make you a great stylist? So send an email, but make sure it's targeted. DMs as well, but I was like, follow up, because sometimes DMs can get lost like in the shuffle. But I think like sending emails or seeing people at events and stuff like that, or just engaging on social media as well is also, I think, a good way to do it.
There's no school for styling, right?
No, actually, there was a brand called School of Style. But technically, like, you can go to like the Parsons and the FIT and get your certificates.
Right.
And I think education is important, and maybe understanding the craftsmanship of garments is great. But I don't think that's necessary to be a successful stylist. Like, some people like offer like different courses and stuff like that. So that's also a way to get into it, is just to understand the basics and maybe understand more like the management and the behind the scenes side of it. And I know other stylists may offer classes as well, but there's really not, like, I feel like you can't teach like someone to have taste. You just can't. I feel like it's innate. It's in you, whether like you have it or not. And that means, so people have different taste levels when it comes to clothing, whether it comes to photography, like hair and makeup. I think some people really just have it. So you can teach the techniques. I can teach you how to like pin a garment, or how like to help over alterations, or maybe how to put different colors and stuff together. But I feel like a part of that is just you as a person. Do you have that within you?
To me, it's like college.
Yeah.
Like, that week you can go to school for accounting. You're not an accountant.
Nope.
You got some basics.
Yep.
You might have a leg up over somebody who didn't have that schooling, but it's more about the experience, I think.
Yes. Like, I think the experience is really like the best teacher. Like, I know some people who put together like different looks and stuff through different apps. I forgot what the apps are called, but like they'll put like kind of like lay downs, or like they'll have like a mannequin and they'll like put like the hair, I mean like the dress, the purse, the glasses together. That's not really styling, you know. Like it's different when you're actually on a real person, or if you're on a campaign, or if you're on a celebrity. You know, like what you think may look good in theory, but how do you apply? Like what's the application of that knowledge? Like how do you apply that to that person? How do you make sure that you're meeting the client's expectations, you're meeting the celebrity's expectations, or you're meeting whoever the client is, whether it's like the booker or whether it's you know, a bank if you're doing a commercial shoot, or if it's the publicist, if it's, you know, someone in entertainment, or if it's someone in music, is it the manager, is it the label? You know what I mean?
So many levels.
There's so many levels. There are so many levels. It's very bureaucratic in a sense, but if you're good, people trust you. And I think you have that leeway to be creative, but you have to establish that.
So, and like you said, the leeway to be creative, you're bringing your talent to the table, and your artistry, and like you said, you can't fake that.
No, you cannot fake that at all. I think it shows. Like you can try, but when it comes down to, you know, putting these looks together, like I think it will show.
It will show, yeah. And it does,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then when you get to another level, you can tell who the fashion stylist is.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yep. I think certain stylists have very specific aesthetics, and people may gravitate towards them for that, and they're known for that. So I think I've been hearing that a lot lately. Like, oh, I knew you did that, like before you posted. And I'm like, okay, wow, that's great to know that at least from a menswear perspective, that people can tell my aesthetic. Like, I'm very, very keen on alterations and tailoring. Like, I live and die by that. And if it can't be altered, we're not going to wear it. I mean, if it's necessary.
Right.
And I take that same eye when it comes to women's wear as well. But lately, I've been doing a lot of menswear, and I had a guy, Stefan James, who's a super talented actor, on an award season run, and 2 press junkets for Homecoming, which is on Amazon, and then If Beale Street Could Talk, which was a movie directed by Barry Jenkins. So we've just had looks after looks after looks on top of looks, and when people say, "Oh, Apuje, I know you did that," I'm like, it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's your signature.
my signature.
Well,
Yes,
it reminds me of like with photographers, we have what they call voice.
Yeah, same thing.
like Terry Richardson with the one light.
Oh, well, yeah. Some they all have like their voice and
It's
vision.
their aesthetic.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because also on the styling side, and I'm sure on the makeup side,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
makeup and hair side,
Yeah.
they're going to have their voice too.
Yes.
We answered a little bit of it, but I don't know if you have like some top tips, the basics new fashion stylists need to know.
New fashion stylists need to know, if they're just trying to do fashion as a and as opposed to like to celebrity and costuming, like it's different worlds. So when I was just doing like editorial, it was really about building a portfolio and doing like the spec shoots, hoping that they get placed in different magazines. So working with the photographers to pitch different publications, or is establishing, say, the portfolio so people will want to lend to you. Because if you're doing fashion style, you're doing editorials, you want to be able to have the top brands, but a part of that comes with working with the top publications. But it's like, how do you get there? You know, it's like you definitely want to you want to work, you know, with the Vogues and the L's and the GQs and the Esquires. But you know, how do you get there? It's like, well, finding doing spec shoots, and you guys, you know, do specs. It's just being able to create content that you have full creative control over, in hopes that it generates a conversation, or just for like further builds on for your portfolio, and the right people see it. And whether the photographer is pitching it out is also key as well. So once you kind of get that established, it's like, okay, well, how do I get into like the Vogues? It's like, oh, well, there's not just Vogue America, there's Vogue Arabia, and there's Vogue India, and there's Vogue South Africa, and there's Vogue Indonesia. It's like maybe starting with some of those as well in order to get to like the bigger ones. I could say, again, continuously creating content like that, generating original content. Like, do not stop. Spec shoots have cost me money over the years. And 99% of the time, they're not paid. Maybe the photographer may drop you a couple, you know, little like gems, like, you know, just like a love offering, you know, for what you do. But I've spent money on like just shipping clothes from like New York or LA, depending on like where I was located. You're paying for transportation. You know, like you are investing on, you paying for rentals as well. Like you are paying for your future. You are investing in yourself, and it's going to cost. And you have to set aside money for that. One thing I wish I would have done before I left corporate is I wish I would have saved more. Something, because I didn't know that I was going to be a stylist. I didn't know that I was going to take this route. So had I known, I would have prepared better financially. So that's one tip I would definitely say. It's like, try to save as much as you can, but don't let money be the sole reason why you're not pursuing your passion. Because there are ways around it. Like there are ways like you can borrow clothes from friends. You may have a friend who has a really nice closet, or maybe your grandmother. Maybe you're going to do a vintage shoot. Like how do you figure out to use your resources in order to get to the next level and to further your craft? So don't be limited by the money, but if you can, be smart about it.
At Linkerbees Photography asked, how do you break into celebrity styling business?
Ooh.
Right.
Maybe we need more time.
That's an intense question.
I'm not going to answer it within 6 minutes.
You don't.
So initially, I started, my first celebrity shoot was in 2010 when I first started styling. And I had a friend who was a photographer. We were in Atlanta, and we were doing a music artist. And we were also doing an editorial shoot too. So I had clothes already from the editorial shoot, and the direction came from the makeup artist, like, oh, we want to go edgy. And as a stylist, I do not like nebulous terms, because one person's version of edgy or fashion forward is so different from someone else's. So I'm always big on like, send me examples of what you mean. Like send me a visual representation. If you don't have a mood board, like send me something, because I want to make sure we're on the same page. Because I don't want to show up the day of and you're like, it's not what I was thinking. I'm like, well, you said edgy. This is what I thought. So I learned that early on. And the shoot did not go awesome. I felt like I was not fully prepared for the shoot, and I didn't meet the celebrity's expectation. And a part of it was, I guess, insecurities I had myself as a stylist. I was new. Maybe only been styling for maybe full time, like 9-10 months at the time. So I didn't feel like I really had the connections as well. And the other part was I felt like I was kind of set up to fail, because the makeup artist who was friends with the celebrity had not fully communicated what the celebrity wanted. He had what he wanted, but not what the celebrity wanted. Right. Yeah. So, but that was a connection for the shoot. So after that, I was like, you know what? This may not be for me. So I took a step back, and I just focused mostly on fashion and wardrobe. So I did a lot of like commercial work, like advertising, which I thought was like great, even though there's like bureaucracy in that, because it's like, you know, that comes from, everyone has an opinion about something. Yeah. But at least I understood, like, okay, they provided a mood board, or they provided like what they wanted for looks. So at least I had direction on what to go of. So I didn't do celebrity for like 3 years after that. I was like, no, thank you. I'm good on this. And then I said, a part of that really is just me being honest, was just like the insecurity part of it. Like, I don't think I'm ready. I knew I was a good stylist, but was I ready to go to like the celebrity space? And I had a friend at the time who was a hairstylist based in DC, and who was the key hairstylist for the singer Maya. And her stylist ended up canceling on a job they were doing for her in DC for her new project. And we had been collaborating a lot in DC with the photographer as well. And he asked me what I do. And I was like, oof. I kind of like, I said, give me a second to think about it. So I called him. I took some time. I called a friend. Like, you know, it's like, I don't know. Like, here we go again. Like, I know I'm good, but like, what is Maya expecting? Like, I grew up listening to Maya. She's from the same area. I felt like a sense of like honor, like to do it, but like I wanted to do it right. So I called back and said, okay, I'll do it. Had a little money in my account, went out and bought some things, had some designers that I knew, reached out, had them ship stuff on my dime. Shoot got canceled. Maya had to reschedule. No. I was like, no. I was like, not again. So, but Maya was so gracious. Like, she ended up paying for all the shipping and everything. She said, let me know how much shipping costs. And I was just like, wow, okay. Because she said, I do want to do this shoot. So we rescheduled, and we did it. It worked out great. We got some great looks, but then I ended up styling her for like inauguration that following year. started doing her for her tour. Whenever she was in like on the East Coast, I would do her and her dancers. So I would go up to New York. I would go do pools all day in New York, like on the bus. It may be like a $15-$20 bus from DC. Have my like rolling duffel bags, right, on the train, going around to these different showrooms and then going back down to DC like to fit Maya, you know, like that was super cool. So that's really where I got my start, is working with Maya. And it was just a referral. The hairstylist believed in me. He was super seasoned. He was a really great hair makeup artist, and he knew that I could do it. And that's how I got my start. And then from there, it just kind of trickled.
You just never know where it's going to come from.
You never know.
Right. There's no, like you said earlier, there's no one path.
There's no one path. There are multiple paths. And a big part of that is your relationships and the brand that you build. And I make sure I always bring the same level of energy and the same rigor that I bring to a paid shoot as I bring to an unpaid shoot. Like, that's very important to me, because oftentimes my work comes from unpaid jobs. Like, the paid jobs comes from the unpaid gigs that you do, the spec shoots or the editorial that you shot. So that is very, very important that you treat all the jobs the same, no matter if you're being paid or not.
Thank you for joining us, folks.
Stay tuned for next time, where Apuje shares his tips for getting a fashion stylist on board with an unpaid or a test shoot.
Bye.